This is lesson number 4 from the series of Basics of Photography for Beginners. I'm going to talk about how you can control your camera focus. I'm going to talk about manual focus and automatic focus. What is focus and why are we attracted by camera manufacturers showing off with many focus points for a particular camera? Focus is basically the point or the average distance where the image is sharp. This distance is measured from the camera. Focus is the middle of depth of field, and these two concepts work hand in hand. The depth of field can be very deep, starting with a full image in focus and nothing blurry, or very narrow, where you can see a sharpness for only a few millimeters depth. For example, macro photography. I will show you an example with the wedding ring where you can see the front part blurry and the sharpness only at the back of the ring. Within 2 or 3 millimeters further, the image becomes blurry again. Focus is something that is controlled by the lens. What happens is that camera will preview the image and measures the distance to the subject and tells the lens how to arrange the internal components to focus on the desired point. How it measures the distance is not important. What we need to know is that there is a limited depth where the focus works, and that is given by the lens on the first hand and the aperture at the second. It is useless to attempt to get a narrow focus without the proper lens, regardless of the aperture. Let's talk about automatic focus. The easiest task in photography is to focus automatically. The only thing you need to do is point the camera towards the subject, half press the shutter button, and the camera will focus for you. You will hear a small beep. Press at the end and you take the picture. In many cases this is enough if the subject is clear in your picture and there are no intention to blur parts of the image in particular. All cameras have automatic focus, and we need to understand that in reality this is the task of the lens, and the camera will tell the lens what to do. Before going any further, I would like to destroy the myth of the camera manufacturers attracting people with more and more focus points as being a better camera. If the image will have many elements situated in various distances from you, the camera will estimate few important points in the picture, usually measured on contrast, and it will estimate a point in the average center of gravity and focus in that point. That will give you an image where there's no control on the depth, and you might have elements out of focus that you want them actually sharp. My technique is very simple. I set my camera on focus point, one focus point, and I choose the middle one. I visually select the point where I want to focus on, like the eyes of the person in front of me. Half press the button until the focus is locked, hear one beep, rearrange the camera to suit the intended frame, and press the shutter button to the end. This way I am sure my focus is where I want it and the camera does not do any estimation or approximation for me. Manual focus. If you want to be able to control which part of the image should be in focus and others should be blurry, then you need to switch on manual mode and rotate the focus ring of the lens until you get the desired effect. Manual focus will stay as you leave it on, and it will not modify until you want to. Manual focus is useful when the camera does not have enough light to pick a point in the scene due to maybe low light conditions or lack of contrast. The problem with the manual focus is that your eyesight is not perfect. You might see the scene differently than the camera and you might end up with the wrong focus. I usually use automatic focus most of the time. Manual focus comes very handy with macro photography and when there's a challenge to focus on a 0.5 millimeter deep inscription on the back of the ring, or for example macro photography where you want to see small insect eyes. Few challenges in focus. Why is it difficult? For example, low light. When there's dark outside, you will notice that camera cannot find the focus point. To overcome this issue, switch to manual or maybe light the subject with a light torch and focus. Focus on moving subject, another challenge. There are instances when the subject moves and you lose focus within a fraction of a second. To overcome this issue is to switch your focus on Servo Focus, which will allow the moving subject and will keep focusing until shutter triggers. This is a simple technique to take sport photos in movement. Also, focusing on moving subjects, one can follow with the camera and use a lens with an image stabilizer. We are going to talk about this in a different tutorial. Let's talk about few focus modes. The most important one is one shot focus, when your camera will lock in the focus on the subject after half press the shutter button. I use that 90% of the time, and that is the most used focusing mode in photography. Or the second choice is servo focus or assisted servo focus, when the subject is moving or starts to move. You lock in the focus on the subject by half pressing the button, and the camera will follow with a variable focus on the moving subject. This is good for sports, action, and whenever movement is obvious. It is useful when shooting a high number of shots to capture the action. I use this mode when I'm asking people to run, shoot repetitively 20 to 30 images to get the running effects and dynamic images. I'm sure some of them will be actually in focus. Other than that, focusing should not be a big issue, and you will get used to it by practicing, and also depending on your camera. Various brands focus with different speeds and accuracy levels. What is the difference between AI focus and AI servo? AI stands for artificial intelligence, and it's the camera manufacturer's system of measuring focus. So basically how the camera focuses. We have three types of focusing. One is one-shot focusing, one is AI, artificial intelligence focus, and one is AI servo. The one shot is pretty straightforward. You lift your camera, you point to the subject, you half press the button, the camera will measure the distance, it will focus on the subject, and there you go, you take the shot. In terms of the AI focus and AI servo, that's a different story. Now, they are a little bit tricky, and to be honest with you, it's very difficult to master them. The main difference between AI focus and AI servo is that AI focus, you focus on a subject, the camera locks in the focus, and if the subject moves, the camera will remeasure the focus, and basically the focus moves with the subject. Now, it's all good in theory, but in practice it's not that simple. So I'm trying to demonstrate now how AI focuses. I'm going to focus on the camera, on yourself. Okay, you hear the beep. Now I'm gonna slightly move towards you, and the camera keeps beeping, and I can feel my lens that focuses. Sorry, I just pressed a couple of times, I took a couple of shots. I hope you can hear the beep. Basically, this is AI focus. Now, one thing I want to mention about the AI focus is, in theory, you lock in the subject, and if you recompose, the camera will not refocus. So it's very important. When you focus on the subject, the camera will stay with the subject. If you move the camera in a different direction, you don't have a subject anymore, camera does not refocus. With the AI servo, things are very simple. The camera will try to focus whatever it's in the focus point. The camera will try to pick up the subject. It's not going to lock in the focus, you don't hear a beep. The camera will be in a constant movement, it will constantly try to achieve focus or whatever. So this is for fast action. Now, you have to be really skilled to capture really fast action. I've done many tries, and to be honest with you, it's not that simple. You need a very high speed camera with a lot of frames per second in order to capture. I would recommend not only one focus point, but several focus points, but that's a different discussion. So AI servo is camera will constant look for the focus. So I'm gonna do the same exercise again. I'm focusing on the camera that is filming me. Basically, it's you. I'm gonna move, the camera moves. There is no refocusing with the beep. It's just a constant focus of the lens. I can feel it in my hand. The moment I switch the camera to a different location, the camera will refocus immediately. I hope that's very clear. So just to recap, servo is for constant moving subject, and AI focus is for a stagnant or a fixed subject that is starting to move. One other thing I forgot to mention is that I have tried to play with AI focus, and to be honest with you, it's not reliable. So even if you focus on something, if it moves really fast, you're not going to be able to keep up with it. So you need a good camera and you need a lot of practice. Different cameras, they measure focus differently, they have different systems, and they will have different performances. If the subject is moving in front of you and parallel to you and it's not coming to you, and roughly the focus distance remains the same, that's a different thing. That would be much easier to achieve.